Welcome to PlayStation Corner, my name is Alex. Today we're taking a look at the Saints Row reboot on the PS5, a game I've been excited for. I've always enjoyed the series' particular brand of mayhem, so with that, hit subscribe, join us here for reviews and deals weekly, and let's get started. Story then, under this, it's very much the origin story for the Saints. We start out the game living with friends who each run with their own respective gangs, but eventually, after let's say a number of events, they come together to form now this new Saints. It's about as over the top as you would expect, and many in the lead up saw it as woke. Not one to care personally, but I think matters have been blown completely out of proportion. I'm sure there's a few moments that will upset those who are fearful of a female lead, for example, or they-them pronouns, but realistically, very little in here. It's the usual ridiculously over-the-top Saints Row, but modernised for today's age. Within the first 15 minutes then, we've been in a car chase, we've fallen on top of a plane, and we've hurled ourselves down the side of a mountain or two. While there's a decently sized cast of characters along the way then to meet, you can expect three main gangs. That's going to be the Marshals, a futuristic security team, the Idols, an anti-establishment group that looked like something from Watch Dogs, and then finally Los Panteros, who seem to be all about the cars and heavy guns. The other gangs, they're fine, they don't really demonstrate a huge amount of creativity, but they definitely get the job done. The story though, look, it's very much paint by numbers honestly, but there is some good humour in here, and generally I enjoyed our core set of characters that form the Saints. They each have unique personalities, they get enough screen time, and by the end I definitely felt a connection to them. Gameplay then, under this, is very much the Saints Row you either love or hate. It's Grand Theft Auto, but less polished and dramatically more over the top. Who needs to shoot from a window of a car when you can climb on the roof at any time as a passenger? What about getting off this building? Screw it, use a wingsuit or even bounce off pedestrians to fly even further. It's got a constant sense of just trying to dial things up. On launching the game then as well, you will notice that there's an aggressive auto like this. It can be fine-tuned in the settings menu, and I would suggest you start here. Find a feel that's going to be working for you. If anything, in fact, there's going to be a lot of tweaks you will need to make with this one to optimize it to your own setup. Alongside this though, it's where it quickly introduces you to the main on-foot mechanics. You can walk, sprint, shoot, there's a weapon wielder, the ability to duck but still no taking cover, and then finally a melee kick. I found the latter pretty useless honestly, so I switched it out with duck. I made it down on the D-pad as I had very little intent of using it. Then we can also dodge roll, and as you may have guessed there, these controls, they are all fully remappable. Then on the more creative side of on-foot action, we can take photos which we will use to decorate our home base. We can use specials when enemies take damage and flash, which are some pretty nice canned animations. They also restore health. Finally, we do get skills. We unlock these with progress. It's going to be the R1 button and a corresponding face button. There's also going to be some character buffers along the way that are unlocked as well. In vehicle then, it's pretty standard. We can shoot, we can drift, we can sideswipe, and we can switch seats if we have a passenger, and of course radio stations. I miss the omission of a standard handbrake personally. While it's definitely fun to drift turns, it makes things like quick U-turns really kind of difficult, just a little too awkward, and I do see room for both options rather than just a straight swap. The best thing about the cars though, a grappling hook, you can drag things behind you, think bank vault style like those seen in Fast and Furious. The game's big overall idea though, I guess, it's customization. Not only will we unlock new skills, but we can upgrade our guns, our home base, we can even build our empire and open new businesses as we have the deeds to multiple locations. This will actually be essential as well, because while it's simple, you're just really placing buildings, it actually opens up side activities as well. My first few, a dumping company, but also a LARPing headquarters, as one of our good friends is heavily into roleplay. For me though, the majority of my time was following the main mission set accessible from your phone. Here we get a goal and a location to kick things off. Bugs though are plenty in this one, from the smaller like characters getting stuck or randomly just appearing in cars, to pedestrians that froze on the spot and you cannot do anything. Saints Row is famous for bugs, that is no different here. There's some really unique ones as well. I noted that if you get out of your car and don't move quick enough, The door closes, hits you and does damage. There was also a moment here where I was nearly forced to restart a mission because police they spawned on a bridge. I couldn't see them, but they needed to be killed to get that completion. I couldn't drive to them though, as the game actually restricts locations and you can't leave that during the mission. You'll get a countdown before a mission failure. I got lucky, climbed on a roof of a nearby garage, and yeah, got one rocket launcher shot off that managed to do the damage. Then it's not really a bug, but this world, it's just somewhat empty. That's why I stuck to the main missions. You'll see some traffic, but pedestrians are minimal. They have little in the way of reaction, and I think I saw the police maybe a handful of times at most, no matter the destruction I did. When they did appear as well, they were driving like they were drunk and half the time destroying themselves before I could even barge into them. It's just kind of a lifeless world, and then the police kind of brainless. It's really hard at times to see the impact you're truly having on this world when you can go nuts with a rocket launcher, and the response was maybe a few squad cars. Rival gangs, fortunately, they fare much better, they're much more aggressive, and that was clearly the focus. Driving as well then, especially while dragging something, it can go all over the place. Your car will go absolutely flying as it hits the smallest of bumps, and it can get more than a little frustrating, especially when there's a mission related to avoiding damage. I also noted, as is kind of typical with the genre, there's many things that are destructible, but occasionally you'll find the most ridiculous things that kind of stops you in your tracks. You know, let's think a tiny little tree, when 10 minutes ago I was knocking down every single palm tree in sight. Overall though, once you do tweak the settings and the mapping, there is definitely fun still to be had here. The combat and the missions over the top. The world is sizable with a nice mix of Arizona style desert and Vegas style city. It's just a shame overall it never feels living and breathing, and there's so many bugs. The driving, some great vehicles as well, even hovercraft style, but the handling never quite delivers. The drift is fun but extremely difficult to master. To close out gameplay then, we do find drop in and out co-op play. It's not packing crossplay unfortunately, but you can face all or some of the campaign together with a maximum of 2 players. Visually then, it's a mixed bag. I think fans of character creators will absolutely love this first off, and our core set really enjoyed their individual styles and personalities. Same with the leads of each rival gang in fact, and generally the world, it is interesting, you know, city, desert landscape. It makes for some fun variety, some fun sights to see. That said though, you quickly identify this, it's the illusion of a city. Sure, there's more shops than ever, but it's still just blank storefronts. You quickly notice as well of pedestrians, gang members, they're repeating visually non-stop. They are often in fact the same character models all walking together, and the ragdoll physics, they get a little bit weird. Even a friend getting in your car can often lead to them appearing through the roof for a few seconds. The big issue for me though, you get settings for resolution and frame rate over visuals. This one, it suffers though still and non-stop from popping, and I was running it actually at 4K with visual mode on, you know, but look at the screen right now, cars will appear and disappear in front of you. There's not even that many of them, let's face it, and that's the same thing for shadow work as well. My final issue then is a really weird one. There's no night or day cycle. It depends on which mission you are on, and the time of day remains that way. It's just full of so many quirks again, which soften the impact of a new visual style that I really like, but why they made this design decision, I do not know. Audio finally, and the guns, they sound fine. The voice acting I really enjoyed. I think they captured the over-the-top nature of this story, and then the radio stations, they are solid. The highlight for me being hearing DMX for the first time in game, but when you start up this one, you're gonna again need to jump into the settings because the mix is just way off. Dialogue was too high, sound effects were weak, and music so quiet it was basically muffled, or I couldn't figure out what the track was. It took me a good while to find a balance that worked, but that's very much going to be individual to your setup. So the final verdict, and Saints Row, this reboot feels very much like more of the same, over-the-top cartoon levels of action and more bugs than you can imagine. Historically, they worked into the personality of the series. Now, I'm not really so sure about them being the generation of console we are rolling with. The missions are fun though, as are the cast, if you can be forgiving to its shortcomings. Overall as well, given it's near 10 years now for Saints Row, this wasn't the next gen drop I was hoping for. You know, the visuals, I really like the new style that they went with, but it is at the same time extremely repetitive and it's just plagued by pop-in. I am a fan of the series, so do take that into account today, but I'm going with an average 5 out of 10 for all of it. You know, all of its good points, you can find a corresponding weakness. It's desperately going to need a patch, this one though, to iron out some of the bigger issues, but will you be checking this one out? Let me know in the comments down below. As I said, there is a good game in here, no question. It's just going to take some forgiveness and perseverance on your part to find it. With that then, like, hit subscribe, join us here for reviews and deals weekly, and I'll see you all on the next video. Thanks everyone.